Hello everyone, welcome to Amrita's Academy's monthly current affairs series, and we're starting with the first session of international affairs. In international affairs, we'll be having two sessions, just like the previous session we had, previous year. So we have done a bit of restructuring. So we'll have three parts in our international affairs. The first part will be the countries in news. For example, any country specific information is there that is relevant for our UPSC purposes. We will discuss that. The second level is the initiatives, programs, and the institutions combined together. And the third one is the bilateral news, anything if that's in that needs to be dealt with. Right? And this is how we'll proceed. So the first one is the country specific news. The first one is that EU has urged Turkey to stop its Mediterranean drilling. So Turkey has recently found out a lot of reserves, whether it's Black Sea or it is in Mediterranean Sea. Now in Mediterranean Sea, from the EEZ problems in South China Sea, right? That this is a Cyprus country first of all, and this is a Greece. So their respective EEZ claims comes into clash with each other. Turkey does not recognize this country, that is Cyprus. Okay. Now, when Turkey goes around and does his oil drilling activities in the disputed regions, then it creates a bit of problem, and hence EU has said that please stop drilling activities in the contested waters in the Mediterranean. Now, for our UPSC purpose, what are the things that are important? First of all, the countries around the Mediterranean. That's what we have to see. We will see somewhere else. This is the Black Sea, the countries around the Black Sea. We'll cover it through questions or through concept somewhere. Now, as I was saying, that contested claims of every country. We don't have to go into the deep of any country's history. For example, India Pakistan itself has a big history. India Nepal itself has a big history. Similarly, the Turkey Cyprus have their own history. We don't have to go along with that. We just need to remember that Cyprus is a country where the northern part of the Cyprus is a self-declared Turkish Republic of North Cyprus. Means there was a coup in 1974 and Cyprus was split along the ethnic lines. Some people recognize the northern part, some people do not recognize the northern part. And Turkey, which does not recognize the northern part, Turkey which does not recognize Cyprus as a country as a whole, hence it claims the EEZ of the Cyprus. Turkey says that this country does not exist, does not provide the recognition to this country. Right? Similar to, just like we don't provide recognition to Taiwan, for example. And hence, it does not respect Cyprus EEZ. And that is the contested water that we are seeing. The next one is the 75th anniversary of Hiroshima bombing. Now, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, everyone, we all grew up listening the stories of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki. There are a few things that need to be kept in mind that can be asked in a very GK based question. So basically, two bombs were being dropped, one in Hiroshima, then in Nagasaki. So first in H, then in N. Hiroshima, then Nagasaki. Hiroshima is here, Nagasaki is here. So locations we need to just keep in mind. With respect to dates, not on the same date these were dropped. 6th August this was dropped and 9th August this was dropped on Nagasaki. Then the names also a bit important. So the one that was dropped in the Hiroshima was Little Boy, and which was bombed in the Nagasaki was a Fat Man. Okay, and it was built under the ambit of the Manhattan Project in the USA. Right? So Little Boy, Fat Man, and Manhattan Projects. These are the few words that you need to keep in mind. Okay? Okay. Next is Sri Lanka's story. A bit of Sri Lanka's story we need to see because 19th and the 20th Amendment is in news. Now, Sri Lanka has gone through a change recently. Change in the Prime Minister, a new Prime Minister they have elected. The Prime Minister is earlier the Prime Minister were Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe in November. And now they have got a new Prime Minister, that is Mr. Rajapakse. Mahendra Rajapakse. Now Sri Lanka's polity is a bit complicated. Right? There earlier the president is used to have a lot of powers. Now Mahendra Rajapakse was a president of Sri Lanka from 2005 to 2010 and 2010 to 2015. Now remember, the first time is of the ending of the civil war in the Sri Lanka. When the civil war ended in Sri Lanka, Tamilians versus the Sinhala, 2009, the civil war ended. And after that, the human rights cry started. The atrocities or the way the civil war was ended, that was contagious. Now, Rajapaksa served 2 terms. And in 2015, he lost the election, lost the presidential election. When he lost the presidential election and the president was the most powerful, then Mr. Maitripala Sirisena became the president. Now, when Maitripala Sirisena became the president from 2015 to 2019, he made this 19th amendment. First of all, let us see. Sorry. This one, the 19th amendment. You can see in 2015, 19th amendment. What was this 19th amendment all about? This 19th amendment was all about restricting the power of the president. So, power of the president will be restricted. 2 terms limit on the president when the Sirisena has become the president. Two term limits to the president. So, reduction in the terms of the limit of the president, right? Parliament from 6 years will become 5 years. 2 term limit will be there on the president's term, just like in the USA. The power of the president to dissolve the parliament only after 4.5 years. Now, the president does not have a lot of power. Establishment of a lot of independent commissions such as election commission and all these institutions. So, 19th amendment are said to be one of the progressive amendments, right? For example, check balance of power and all these things. Now, when Rajapaksa, who has already served 2 terms, 2005 to 2010 and then 15 to 15, he saw these 19th amendment as a curb to his own power because he wanted to become president again. But he cannot. Right? So when he campaigned, now Rajapaksa, what he did, Mr. Rajapaksa let his brother, that is Gotabaya Rajapaksa, his brother. We need to just know a bit what is happening in Sri Lanka because it's a neighborhood country. We need to know a context. So Mr. Rajapaksa's brother became the president when he lost. When Mr. Sirisena lost, he became the president because he cannot become the president. Then came the parliament election. Then he became the prime minister. Mr. Rajapaksa became the prime minister. So currently, his brother is the president and he is the prime minister. Now, being the prime minister, what he did, he campaigned on the logic of that we have to see this 19th amendment and we have to dilute it. And they saw this 19th amendment as primarily intending to prevent his leader returning to the power. They have projected that the 19th amendment has been put so that Mr. Rajapaksa does not return to the power again in Sri Lanka because he has already served 2 terms. Right? Now, when Mr. Rajapaksa has come, he has said, no. How will this happen? So, the legislation, the 19th amendment, which has diluted a lot of powers of the executive presidency, 20th amendment has been passed, which it gives the more life to the role of the president. It gives more power to the president. So, for example, lifting the term limits, giving more power to the president and all the status quo. All the previous thing that before 19th amendment, what was the situation, right? So this 20th amendment under the Mr. Rajapaksa, so this new legislation turns the prime minister role to the ceremonial one. He himself is the prime minister now. For example, he himself is the PM now, but his role now will be ceremonial because later on he will be taking up the role of president again because he wants to become the president again. And this is what he ensured with the amendment in the constitution. And this is a small, very turbulent political history of Sri Lanka. This is the 19th amendment. A lot of amendments are very important. For example, 13th amendment and a lot of amendment we'll discuss as they come in the news. But 19th and the 20th amendment, just remember in Sri Lanka relates to this, not related to the Tamilian issue. Okay. So for example, 19th amendment, which restricted the power of the president. So for example, presidential functions can be challenged in the Supreme Court, right? They have restricted a lot of power and a lot of things. That is the story of a small story of Sri Lanka. Then comes the Abraham Accord, very significant accords. What are these Abraham Accords? The Abraham Accords are said to be one of the achievements of Mr. Donald Trump. So what it has been done, the UAE has recognized the Israel as a proper, recognized the state of Israel. That the state we were discussing, that the Turkey has not recognized the Cyprus, India has not recognized the Taiwan. Similarly, UAE has not recognized Israel till the time. For example, Pakistan does not recognize the Israel. Till 1991, we do not recognize the Israel, the existence of Israel as an state. Okay, so now UAE has been said to recognize the status of Israel. So what it will do, US, it will establish the formal diplomatic relationship between UAE and Israel. It would halt, and what Israel has promised to the UAE, that it will halt is controversial plans to annex the West Bank. We will see that the Israeli settlements in the West Bank. So they'll say, okay, we'll stop it. So this is the first country in the Gulf, third Arab country, and the first country in the Gulf region, this region, to recognize the Israel. As I said, Pakistan does not recognize this Israel. Iran does not recognize this Israel because of the whole issue of the Palestine-Israeli conflict and a series of wars that they have done. Okay. Now, some people have said UAE already has a lot of good relationship with Israel. Already it was happening. It was just a formal acknowledgement of the already flourishing relationship, because Israel is an economic powerhouse, right? UAE, Dubai is an economic powerhouse. So it was bound to happen. Now the next in line, some people say, is Saudi Arabia. Because Saudi Arabia, when the Saudi recognizes Israel, that would be a very big event. Okay, right. Let us go bit into it, a bit of history. For example, the other two countries that have gone with the peace treaties and the full diplomatic relationship with Israel are Egypt and Jordan. This is a very famous accord that is called the Camp David Accord. 1979, when Jimmy Carter was the president of the United States of America. And all these are brokered by the United States only. And that is why United States is said to be the global policeman, isn't it? The global conscience keeper. We cannot say conscience keeper, so as to say. So in 1978, between the Egypt and the Israel, they have signed this Camp David Accords. And this person, that is Anwar Sadat, was assassinated after he did this accord. He was assassinated in his own country, but the treaty was signed. Then the Israel-Jordan treaty, that is Wadi Araba treaty, not very famous name. Camp David Accord is very famous. So Wadi Araba treaty, that is the Jordan in the times of the Bill Clinton. Chaliye. If we talk about a bit of history, I'm not discussing a lot of history here, but very big of history. So the history of the Israel-Palestinian conflicts goes back to the time of the World War I. So in 1915, when the British were fighting the Ottoman Empire, the part of the two different sides, Ottoman on one side, British and the other allies on the other side. So British have promised the independent Arab state because those Arabs were resisting these Ottoman Empire. So British said that we will give you an independent Arab state because you are assisting us in a sense by putting up a resistance against the Ottoman Empire. So friend or enemy of an enemy is a friend. Okay, so Arab states were happy. That is known as Hussain-McMahon Correspondence. Then there was a Balfour Declaration, very famous Balfour Declaration, in which the British has pledged a national home in the Palestine for the Jews. A national home. So on the one hand, they have promised an independent Arab state. On the other, they have promised the Palestine and the Israel, the Jews, that you will find a national home in the Palestine. That is called as the Zionist movement. Right? And then when they got it under the mandate, Palestine from the Ottoman mandate after the Sykes-Picot Agreement, all these things we can take up in this one day one topic series. And obviously you have read in your static world history portion. So Sykes-Picot Agreement, they got the mandate of the Palestine, and then the story of the Palestine started. Now, After a lot of hue and cry, and after the Nazis put a lot to the Jews, so Jews, a lot of Jews in a lot of number went back to this is Palestine area. So this was the Palestine, and this whole area was earlier a Palestinian area, right? Then the Jews got migrated to this place because they were promised. It is also there in the scriptures. The Jerusalem is a very holy place of the Jews. Now, in 1947, the UN had decided to split the Palestinian between the Arabs and the Jews. So this was the plan of the United Nations. Okay, so what we will do? This will be the Jewish state, the gray one, and this will be the yellow one, will be the Palestinian state. You can see the amount of the land that is there, right? And this will be an internationally administered area, that is the Jerusalem, because it is a revere site not only for Muslims but also for Jews, but also for Christians. So this was the plan that UN has proposed. The Jews have accepted, okay, fine, we were getting some state, we are getting state recognition, but Arabs have rejected. They said, why? How can Jews can get the land in this particular place? Traditionally, the Arabs and the Palestinians specifically are living in this place. They should be given the state. Why the Jews should be given an inch of the land here? And when this was done, these Arab states declared the war on the Israel. Very newly formed country, but they declared the war. Egypt, Jordan, Iraq, Lebanon, and Syria. In 1948, so Arab armies have invaded the Israel, but Israel has won the particular war because of the very money they have. The Jews are very rich, right? They have a very the Israel has a very great military because of the technology, because of the money they have. So Israel won the war, 1948 war, and then the Palestine is reduced to this Gaza Strip, and this is the West Bank. These are the two areas you need to keep in mind. Ultimately, Israel has taken over more land what was promised to them in United Nations partition. From that period, the Palestinian got marginalized. Then as a resistance, they formed this PLO, that is Palestinian Liberation Organization, in 1964. Now, then a lot of a timeline is there. We'll discuss more about in a one day one topic series. So Balfour Declaration, state of creation of Israel, 6-day war in 1967 pursuit. When these Arab armies again try to intimidate Israel that we will attack you, we will attack you. What Israel did? They did an preemptive strike. So Israel went ahead and did the preemptive war against these. So these states were threatening these Arab states, because they have lost a lot of land in 1948. So they were saying that we will do this, we will do this. But Israel did the preemptive strike and destroyed a lot of things. Then very quickly, within 6 years, they have done this Yom Kippur war. Very significant. Then First Intifada, then Oslo Peace Accord happened in 1993. In 1993, some peace accord happened. They've said that, okay, some sort of history, some sort of, we need to find some middle solutions to it. But again, then it could not materialize. Oslo Accords also. Then Second Intifada and the recent problems that are being witnessed in the Israel-Palestinian area. What are the recent problems that are seeing? For example, you can see in this map. So this was the Palestinian land. You can see how much Palestinian land was there. So it was the Jewish settlement. These are the areas of Jewish settlement. Then after 1947, a lot of influx. The UN has mandated the partition plan that we have discussed. Then slowly, as we have seen the 1948 war, the 1967 war, the Israel has taken a lot of area. So they have reduced the Palestinians to these places. This is West Bank and this is Gaza Strip. Then later on, what happened? The Israel went ahead and they have taken the West Bank also. And this is known as the illegal settlements or the Jewish settlements in the West Bank. And this is the cause of worry for Palestine. They are saying that now the Jews are controlling a lot of land in the West Bank. In fact, you can see there is no homogeneity of the Palestinians. And slowly all the Palestinians will live under the control of the Jewish only. And the only resistance to them is coming through this Gaza Strip. And this is what the accord says, that Abraham Accord, that they need to halt this activity. But this is already going on at a very brisk pace. very brisk pace. So Israel has a, because they have the technology, they have the money, and they are going at a very brisk pace to get it done. Now, this was the illegal settlement I was talking about. This is a West Bank, and all these areas they have taken up slowly. They have taken up the Jewish communities. They are setting up their tents. They are setting up big militaries are there. If you listen to any interview, you'll understand what kind of things that are going on. They have established their own roads, their own sewage system, their own colonies, and the one Palestinian is living here, one Palestinian is living here, one Palestinian is living here, and in between all the Jews' roads are there. So some people, including India, has called all these settlements as illegal under the international law. India also maintains this position that these settlements are illegal in nature. But then nobody says, because Israel is doing whatever it wants to do. Now, and in this context, the Abraham Accord becomes very significant, because a lot of Palestinian, even the Pakistanis and the core Arab states, say that this is a betrayal to the Palestinian cause. What is the Palestinian cause? That there should be a Palestine in this. A properly recognized Palestinian state should be there. And they all say that this is a betrayal to the Palestinian cause, what UAE has done. While recognizing the Israel, it has reduced the case of the Palestinians. But ultimately, you see, in the international economy, the money dominates, nothing else. Okay, let's go to the next one, that is institutions and initiative. The first one is the Millennium Alliance. Not very important, first of all. Okay, so what is this? It's a only innovation driven and impact focused initiative of a lot of agencies. For example, from India, we have Department of Science and Tech. We have USAID, that is United States Agency for International Development. We have the FICCI. We have the UK government also, UK government department, Facebook, and a lot of players are involved. So the focus is on the innovation driven and impact focused initiative, which will help to scale up the Indian innovations, right? And this is what it is all about. So UK government, FICCI, DST, USAID, Millennium Alliance. If the question will be on the very significant, very different question. For example, the option 1, it is a United Nations initiative, something like that. It's an initiative for hunger and food, something like that. So a lot of time the question comes on very stark difference, very trivial information, but the options will be very significant. So you have to eliminate both of them, or whatever the wrong situation is there, right? Chalo. The next is Tsunami Ready program. It's a very significant program. You can use this as a case study in your disaster management paper. So Tsunami Ready, from the name itself, ready for tsunami. So it's a community performance based program recognized by this, initiated by this Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of the UNESCO. So remember UNESCO. Okay. So what they do, basically within this, they make some villages tsunami ready. Tsunami ready means all the preparedness, all the disaster mitigation, so that disaster does not take place, disaster preparedness, and all these things they do. So in India, two districts, two villages of the Odisha have been recognized as that are tsunami ready. So first one is in the Jagatsinghpur district, right? And second one in the Ganjam district. So this is Jagatsinghpur district, and second is this Ganjam district. So these are the coastal districts where they have identified the two villages which are tsunami ready. Okay, so this you can put in your case study with respect to your disaster management. Chalo. Next is the BRICS innovation base. Recently only I was reading the newspaper today. So BRICS meeting has happened. We'll discuss that when it comes. So in China has urged the countries of the BRICS to create a BRICS innovation base, so that a platform on which it can take up its 5G and artificial intelligence or the Chinese tech. So using a BRICS as a vehicle to put together or to launch this 5G and AI in all the BRICS countries, right? So China plans to establish this BRICS innovation base. Now, what is the situation with respect to 5G and BRICS? Now, if we talk about the Russia, it is working very closely with China. that is Chinese company, that is Huawei, which is banned by USA. A lot of digital problems, that is a part of a trade war, larger trade war between US and China. So USA has banned this Huawei. Now China wants to become a leader in the 5G. China wants to become the leader in the 5G. And USA does not want to lose its position as a technological leader in the global world. And hence they have banned this Huawei. When it comes to, for example, Brazil has also said, okay, we will allow the participation of Huawei in the 5G network trials. South Africa has already given the services to the 3 telecom provider in their country. What about India? Now India is in dilemma. India has already said that we will not allow Huawei. Jio has said that it will build its own 5G network. Now we have also security concern vis-a-vis this Huawei and 5G network from China. A lot of committees have said that please don't include this Chinese vendor into it, and also the idea of Atmanirbhar Bharat, the idea of the border clashes that are there. So there has to be an economic repercussions based upon it. Indian intelligence has also flagged that this should not be there. We should avoid giving this 5G contracts and all these things to Chinese company because they are exploiting these things. And India has also joined this global partnership for artificial intelligence. That is also very significant. We'll see this. That is an alternative to China platform that has been created for artificial intelligence, or basically inclusive platform of democracies and all these things. Okay. So remember, going forward, 5G becomes a very, very critical issue going forward when it comes to the international politics, because China is emerging as a very big player when it comes to the 5G. Now that's the end of the session, everyone. Let us discuss our 5 questions. The first question is of this 2020 prelims paper. Consider the following pairs: international agreement set up and which is the subject they are catering to. So Alma-Ata Declaration, healthcare of the people; Hague Convention on biological and chemical weapon; Talanoa Dialogue on global climate change; Under 2 Coalition on child rights. So even if you know about 2 of them, those 2 or 3 are very famous. 1, 2 and 3 are very famous actually. 4th one is not very famous, but 1, 2 and 3 are very famous. And again you see it is a current affairs of the not of particular year but of previous years. Now for example, this Alma-Ata Declaration, let us see this declaration one by one. You can pause the video and you can try it. Okay. Now this Alma-Ata Declaration was in news when this NMC, National Medical Commission debate was there, when Ayushman Bharat was launched, because one of the component of the Ayushman Bharat is the improvement of the primary healthcare center into wellness center, health and wellness center, HWC, in the Ayushman Bharat. One of the component along with the Jan Arogya Abhiyan insurance scheme, there was a one part that we have to upgrade these PHCs into this health and wellness center, 1500 of them. So in that idea, Alma-Ata Declaration came into news. Also, Alma-Ata Declaration also came into news because it was signed in 1978 and it has celebrated its 40 years. Right? And they have signed a new declaration, that is Astana Declaration. So it was a news in 2018, 2019. So Alma-Ata Declaration is basically focused on the primary healthcare system. Healthcare, basically, health for all. Some very good words, that is evidence-based approach, social accessibility, accessibility of technology, participatory approach, affordability of service, and all these things. So Alma-Ata, now the name is Almaty, that is a country in the Kazakhstan. Okay? Chalo. So Alma-Ata Declaration is for the health. Next is the Hague Convention. This Hague Convention is for the child abduction, in civil aspects of the child abduction. It is not related to the biological and the chemical weapons and all. Okay. So it was also famous because we have established the CARA, Central Child Adoption Agency, something like that, a statutory body. Okay, so that is why it was under the news 2 years back. Talanoa Dialogue in 2013, COP 2023, sorry. That is when it happened in Bonn under the presidency of the Fiji. In the Fiji, Talanoa is said to be a process of the basically consultation, and that they call it as a Talanoa. And they have said for the climate change, we also need the consultation. We also need the discussions. forming of relationships, and with that we'll come together for the solution. So this is known as the Talanoa dialogue. And the last one is the Under Two coalition, and it was related to the climate change. Okay, it's a coalition of the subnational that reduce this greenhouse gas emissions and all these things. So it was related to the climate change. Now I get it that the fourth one was tough, but the third one was very easy. But for the aspirant, those who have been reading it for, we're preparing for at least 1 to 2 years. So, for example, if you know that third one is right, you will eliminate this, you will eliminate this, you are ends up being this. So, if you know one or you know four, and one is also very famous, Almata Declaration, very famous. So, if you know one and three are correct, you don't know about two and four, then also you'll get the question right. And this is how you don't need to know the lot of information, but even if you know the selective and the important ones, you will get it through. Okay, let's move to the next question. The New START treaty in the news. What is this treaty? Its question came in 2011, but I taught this in 2019 as well. The New START treaty. So New START treaty, you can read the options and you can pause the video and try to answer the question. New START treaty. So the New START treaty was between the USA and the USA and Russia. Okay, it was signed in 2010 and entered into this 2011, and it was expected to last till 2021. And this is why it is in the news, because Trump has said that we no longer want to be the part of the New START treaty. We don't want to expand it, or we don't want to extend it. So it's a strategic arms reduction treaty. It's a nuclear arm reduction treaty between the US and the Russia. So we have to reduce and limit these strategic offensive arms to reduce this arms race and all these things. Okay. So in 2010, it was signed. In 2021, it will be removed. Now, Vladimir Putin also has said that he threatens to drop this New START nuclear treaty. And they have achieved a lot of significant objectives too. They have destroyed a lot of missile bombers and all these things. But yes, now the Trump doctrine that we will withdraw from anything. Trump doctrine that everyone is taking advantage of us. The China and the Russia are building weapon without telling us. So the Trump has said, no. What he says, it's a badly negotiated deal. It's a bad deal made by non-smart people. And we all know that rhetorics of Trump, isn't it? Right. So this is the New START treaty. So it's a bilateral strategic nuclear arms reduction treaty between the USA and the Russian Federation. Now the extent of the current affair that is asked in this year's UPSC, we need to make sure that we prepare for the current affairs for past 2 years, at least past 2 years. And this will be my objective, to cover majority of the important topics of the last year through questions or through taking the topics in our discussion only. Now let us see third question, that is with reference to development in the science and tech during the Gupta period. So we're talking about the Gupta period. Consider the following statements. Aryabhat suggested that the earth rotates on its axis. Brahmagupta work Panchasiddhantika deals with the 5 astronomical systems. Varamihir invented the decimal system. It's a very tricky question. This is a very factual based question, and this question comes the part of the strive, the second part of the important part of our preparation. It is not part of the must, and it is not part of the no. No means very tough questions that you are not supposed to get. Must matlab that you must get. But if you want to get selected, you have to do well in this strive portion. And this is one of such questions. So you need to know about all the 3 personalities, because this will help you in a lot of questions. For example, when we talk about Aryabhatta, so he was a scholar of the Nalanda, 499 AD. It was a time period, the Gupta period. He wrote the book that is Aryabhattiya, that is on the astronomy and on the mathematics. There are very key things that you need to remember. For example, in the astronomy, he said that earth rotates around its own axis. He calculated the area of triangle. He put the value of pi more accurate than the Greeks, and he focused on the scientific explanations instead of the orthodox explanation of the phenomena. So that are his contribution mainly in the astronomy. In mathematics, he denoted the big decimal number by alphabets, number theory, algebra, geometry, Bijganit, that is trigonometry, and these things he has done. If we talk about Varamihir, he was one of the 9 gems of the Gupta period. So this is one thing you need to remember. Varaha, the title of the Varaha was given by the King Vikramaditya. His 2 famous work, that is the Birhat Samhita and Panch Siddhantika. So Birhat Samhita, it talks about the astronomy. It is also known as the Great Compilation. Brihat means the big, great. So it is a combination, it is a compilation of a lot of things. Astronomy, rainfall, gems, pulse, all these things he talked about. Or cloud theory under the astronomy. Then the Pancha Siddhantika. Interestingly, this book is a compilation of the work done by the previous people, the old Indian texts. There are 5 old Indian texts. Those are compiled in this book. So this question can be asked in this format. For example, they can give you 1 to 2 line. Okay, this is the text in which astronomy is mentioned. It comprises of the data, or comprises of the learnings or the study of the 5 old or the some of the old books. So name the book, which is the book we are talking about. Option 1, Birhat Samhita. Option 2, Panch Siddhantika. Like that. So you can see this question coming in a very different direction as well. So answer will be Panch Siddhantika. So it's a 5 astronomical canon related to astronomy, and it contains information of the old Indian text, which were no longer preserved, but they are being preserved in the works of the Varamihir. Then we have the Brahmagupta. So Brahmagupta time period, just keep that in mind, 568 to 668, again under the Gupta period. He was also a mathematician and an astronomer. Now his book work you need to remember, that is Brahma Supta Siddhanta and Khada Khadyaga. Okay? Because UPSC is going on a tough level, they will ask these questions only. He mentioned 0 for the first time, and he gave rules to compute with 0. He mentioned negative numbers as debts and the positive numbers at the fortune. So these are the few things. He was mostly seen as a mathematician. Then, so who invented the decimal system? That is the Aryabhatta. Brahmagupta work, Panchasiddhantika. No, it was not a Brahmagupta, it was a Varamihir's work. And the first statement is right, that is Aryabhatta has said that the earth rotates on its axis. So these are the few things that you need to keep in mind, and you need to make notes on these lines only. And just make notes and just have notes, and if you get any other information from any other test series or any other source, just add a few more information and you are done. And making notes like this will definitely help you. And this is the stripe part that I have discussed in how to approach for prelims 2021. Next question is Indian Ocean Naval Symposium. So in 2017 this question was asked. Inaugural IONS was held in India in 2015 under the chairmanship of Indian Navy. IONS is a voluntary initiative that seeks to increase the maritime cooperation among the navies of the littoral state of the Indian Ocean region. So IONS is a very important initiative. In fact, whenever you talked about the Indo-Pacific, the steps taken by India in the Indo-Pacific, you have to mention about the IONS. You can pause the video and try this question. Now, IONS was launched in 2008. It's a biennial exercise. That means it takes place after 2 years, you can see. So the recent one in the 20th will be taken up in the France in the Reunion Island in April 2020. It's been taken up. So it's a regional forum that represents a country's navies. So this is what you need to recall. Naval, from naval to navy. So in 2008 it was launched. It's a voluntary initiative, increase maritime cooperation, humanitarian and disaster response, information security and interoperability, maritime security. And under the overarching umbrella of Sagar, India operates in it. That is security and growth for all in the region. Okay? So IONS, we'll discuss IONS again if any initiatives comes in. The first option is wrong in 2015. So what you need to remember, what the learning we can take from this question. The learning we can take, just remember the years in which these institutions are established. This is a very critical point. In fact, 1 to 2 questions have been put it like that only. चलिए, the last question is, which of the following groups are a part of G20? This is a part of 2020 paper only. Very easy question. G20, which of the 4 countries are part of G20? Now options were relatively tricky in nature. Now I taught G20 questions with this trick actually, that you can remember the G20 countries with this trick. This is a slide from previous session only, previous year. G7, BRICS, EU sat together. These three sat together. The G7, BRICS, and EU sat together and aimed for to revive the economy. So G7 countries that are there, 7 G7 countries. You can also remember the G7 countries. Then the BRICS country, 5 BRICS countries. EU itself, the big bloc. SAT means Saudi Arabia, Argentina, and Turkey. Aim for Australia, Indonesia, Mexico, and South Korea. So these are the countries which are the part of the G20. Just see the trick here, see the map here once, and this is how you will remember it. And you see in UPSC, this is a part of the must question that you must get it right. You cannot afford to get it wrong. Okay? And in 2022, India will be hosting the G20 summit for the first time. Right? Okay. Currently, the presidency of the G20 is with Saudi Arabia. So just keep in mind. So these are the 4 countries, that is Argentina, Mexico, South Africa, and Turkey. There are a few countries that you need to keep in mind actually. For example, the Mexico, the Indonesia, that they are also the part, the Turkey. So these are the few countries that you need to keep in mind, that they are also, yes, they are also the part of these G20. So that's the end of the session, everyone. Let us quickly revise what we have done today. We started discussion on the EU, Turkey, Cyprus, Mediterranean Sea, Black Sea issue. Then the fat boy, first little man, 6th August. Then the fat man, Manhattan Project. Then 19th and 20th Amendment in the Sri Lanka. So Rajapaksa, 2-year term, again came back as a prime minister. Now wants to become the president again. And he has made the president's role more powerful with the 20th Amendment, which was reduced by the 19th Amendment. Just see the timeline and you will understand. Next, the Abraham Accord. We have seen Israel, Palestine, UAE, and Israel relationship normalized, diplomatic relationship is strengthened, and we have seen a bit of the historical context to it as well. Then Millennium Alliance and the Tsunami Ready program, then BRICS Innovation Mission, and lastly the few questions that we have seen, some of the declarations, New START Treaty, Science and Technology, National Indian Ocean Naval Symposium, and the G20 countries. So with this, we will finish the session, and we all see you in the next class. So in the next session, we will discuss these bilateral relationships, bilateral, that is India and Maldives, mainly India and Maldives. We will see, for example, Gorkha Pacts and a few more things. Okay, bye bye for now. Thank you.